Welcome, everybody. We're so glad to be here. It's March. It was a sunny day today. We're all happy because the warm weather is coming our way. We have today as we're going to be presenting information regarding our awesome public service, which is the Dallas Public Library. And we're also going to be joined by Joe Carreón, who is going to give us an update on DISD. So we are first going to start though with some community service announcements, and Michael will help us with that.
Okay, well, thank you, Suzanne. I'm going to share my screen here for the slides for Neighbors in the Know, March 2021. Good news, we have Dallas Water Utilities agreeing to not include February in their averaging calculations for water bills. As you know, with the deep freeze we had, people were leaving their taps on and they were trying to keep the water flowing to prevent freezing. I hope that worked for you. If it didn't, we're very, very sorry, and we're with you throughout all of this. But the good news is that your water bill should not be spiking because they will not include the month of February in their averaging. Let's hope that's the case, and maybe the electric providers can follow suit, but we're not making promises on that. Vaccinations, yes, get vaccinated if you can. There's the link here at the dallascounty.org website. It's dallascounty.org/COVID-19. Currently vaccinating 65 and older and those with pre-existing conditions who are over 16 years old. But anyone can register to get on the list. Eventually, you will get contacted to make an appointment, and then you can show up to get vaccinated. Now, the good news is also there is prioritization for 17 of our zip codes that are being targeted. And there's a list of them on the dallascounty.org website as well. So lots of information regarding the vaccines. This is a list of the 17 zip codes. I'm not going to leave the slide up for everybody to start counting and finding yours, but that information is out there. There's also the phone number, 1-855-IMMUNE9, open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. to register by phone if you're not able to do it by computer. There are also a couple of events for registration, not vaccination, but for registration and testing. The first will be happening on March 12th. That's Friday from 11:30 to 3:30 at the West Dallas Multi-Purpose Center. And another one will be at the Dallas Public Library at the Bachman Branch on Webb Chapel Road. And that is Monday, the following Monday, March 15th, between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. Again, this is registration and testing, not vaccination. But for vaccination, you can actually call the number here, and we will give all this information to you in the Facebook feed. And this video will also be available to you after the session is over for you to review with all this information. But the Bachman Recreation Center will be having a host of buses taking people to their vaccination location at Fair Park. And those are people living in the 17 zip codes mentioned prior. You have to meet the criteria for 1B, which is listed again in the Dallas County website. You can call 214-670-6266 to register. That is, again, Wednesday, March 17th. We'll provide more information for you. But that's great news if you need transportation to get vaccinated. We need to do this in a very dedicated kind of way. So hopefully everybody will be on board. Food's an issue for a lot of people, and there is a mega food distribution event. This one is the Catholic Charities of Dallas, and on March 12th, 2021, they will be holding an event and are in need of volunteers for traffic control, client registration, and the information can be found at ccdallas.org/megafooddrop. You can also email volunteer@ccdallas.org or call 469-801-8170. Again, we'll have all this information for you in the Facebook feed, as well as this video will be available to you afterwards. This is, again, the Catholic Charities of Dallas food distribution, and this will be held near Love Field. I believe it's at the satellite parking lot on Harry Hines, but the details are on their site, and they'll be able to provide that. The mobile food pantry is another opportunity for you to help volunteer and also let people know who are in need of food. This is for March 17th between 12:30 and 2. It's sponsored by Bachman Lake Together, And the address is here at 9507 Overlake Drive in Dallas. And if you want to register to volunteer, you can register with Rosa Escobedo, and that is rescobedo at bachmanlaketogether.org. And let's not forget, Election Day is coming up again, May 1, 2021, and early voting starts April 9th. Now, this is really important because you're going to get to elect or re-elect your city council members. And why is this important? And why do you need to show up? Because they approve the changes to city policies. They can help fix our streets. They can help make our communities safer. And I'll tell you right now, don't forget what happened after the tornado in 2019. Don't forget what happened after the gas explosion. And don't forget what happened after this ice event or the snow event. These people really matter, and you matter in voting them in or out. So pay attention to the issues. Again, the early voting starts April 19th. The good news, too, is that Next Neighbors in the Know will be dedicated more to that voting theme. And we'll have more information for the April 12th event that we will be distributing prior. So stay tuned and join us for the Next Neighbors in the Know as well. But remember, these elections are going to matter a lot. And don't forget, read our latest news and information, friends at bachmanlake.org/news. We are about to distribute this week our next newsletter for March, and stay informed. And that's all I got for you now. And tonight, I'll turn it back to Susanna.
So I'm actually the District 6 representative to the library board. And as I said, as we were kicking off, one of the most amazing services that I think that we offer within the city. We currently have about 700,000 patrons for the library. And we have about 8 million visitors at the library that come every year. Last year, however, as you guys will know, due to COVID, that dropped about 60%, and so we have totally ramped up our virtual offerings, and that's what a lot of this presentation is going to be. It's not just a virtual services, but the libraries are now open for kind of to-go services, and so I want to make sure that you guys understand that. So once again, there's about 9 million pieces of materials that are checked out every year. Of those, about half of them are physical, and online comprises the other half. Once again, online materials have gone up about 40% year over year. Pre-COVID to last year's COVID year. And then I think what's most fascinating, as I was mentioning, was just all of these programs that we're doing virtually. And they're all the way from gardening courses to music classes. So there's actually, the library has a gentleman who's a teacher and a music teacher, and it teaches, I mean, everything. They actually do little mini concerts, and it's just so inspiring. So I think we tend to think only books and that type of material, but these services are much broader than that. Volunteer hours, about 12,000 volunteer hours last year, and then curbside pickups. That's kind of a new number. We didn't have as much last year, but we've had 80,000 of those. So under COVID-19, the libraries are still closed for in-person visits. There was obviously an exception during the winter storm where libraries were open for warming centers, but that was very much of an exception, and it was in order to care for members of the community. Now, even though the libraries are closed, that doesn't mean that library staff is just sitting around doing nothing. No, in fact, their focus has shifted to a lot of online work that had to happen, all the way from cleaning up, the customer database. They have actually been doing outreach to the community for folks over 65 to make sure that they're being cared for, that they have what they need. They've done a full digitization of the entire library collection. So they are all RFID'd, all of the books. And they've spent a lot of time, so one more page, doing and collecting Dallas history and archives. If you can go one more page further ahead, Michael. We're on the COVID page. So they've been extremely busy, in fact, and they've pivoted very well to meet the needs of the community. So talking a little bit about the curbside, you just need to call and place a piece of material on hold, and your friendly librarian either at Grolier or at Bachman Lake, because we are super lucky that that our community has two amazing libraries within a mile of the actual park. So this is super unique for our area. But just call, ask for what you need, and they will make sure that you get the book. And then you just drive through the drive-through area where you do the drop-off of materials, and you can pick it up. Michael, I think you're not on mute, so I'm getting some feedback. There. So if you can go the next page, please. There's also the Dallas Public Library, one more page, has a website, dallaslibrary.org. You can find status updates there in terms of what is going on of activities that you can participate in, because even though we are virtual, once again, there's a lot of activities that you can avail yourself at from home. There's story times for little kids. As I was mentioning, there's music classes, 24/7 streaming and downloadable content. So we're going to go through some of those here moving forward. So on the next page, you'll see kind of the list of all of the virtual programs. It is not limited to the ones I mentioned. There's a lot of help that the library is providing for job seekers as well. And I wanted to make sure to mention this. They will help you review your resume and do updates to your resume and tell you about opportunities in the area for jobs. This is an incredible list, as you can see, that I think a lot of people are not aware of, that is offered through the library. On the job seeker resources, you can also subscribe to their newsletter. And there's a whole career launch pad service. Michael, if you jump to the next page, that will, where they can help you with this effort. So there's a phone number on this presentation. You can call 214-470-1468 or text to get assistance from a job perspective. On the next page, you'll see, I was mentioning downloads and videos. So Hoopla, it used to be that you could download, you could avail yourself of like 8 movies a month, and that's now been increased to 15 titles. You download, this is an app that you can download to your digital device, your phone or iPad or whatever, and you get access to music and movies, TV shows, graphic novels. It's really amazing and really good content. So you just need your library card, and it's all free. The next one, the next app that you can download is called Flipster, and this is for magazines. And once again, all of these magazines for free. You just need the app and your library card. No need to go and purchase and spend your money on magazines. The one that's a basic app that is not listed on here is Libby, and that is more for books and audiobooks. So Libby is another app that is free through the library, and once again, the content is free. On the next page, this aligns a lot with the conversation that Joe is going to have. If you go to the next page, Michael, it's Smart Summer. So we're kicking this off again this year for summer 2021, starting on June 5th through August 14th. You read every day. You're going to earn great prizes. There's hands-on projects that you can do. There will be performances, magicians. They'll have animal folks that bring animals in, and you can do experiments. Last year they even had art kits that you could pick up at the library with your kids, take them home, and then do the activity at home. So some really fun and creative activities that you can do with your kids. It's never too early to be thinking about this stuff because summer will be upon us before we know it. And parents are always looking for things to do with their kids. So on the next page, so the operational status, we're still working on future on how we're going to be reopening libraries and making sure that that is being done safely. We are going to continue expanding the virtual presence. We want to make sure that all of our librarians are have their COVID vaccines. We're also helping with COVID for helping people get registered for vaccines. But anyways, we're really planning for limited reopening as vaccinations extend across the community. We don't think that we're going to be fully open this year, but that is that can shift depending on guidance at the municipal level and then also at the federal level. Well, we're continuing to do this we're going to start doing this grab and go service. Maybe Sarah can explain it a little further. I'm not quite as familiar with the grab and go service, but I think it's basically you make an appointment to go into the library, and there will only be certain slots during the day. You can peruse the materials that are on the shelves and you can then check it out. But it's going to be very much a scheduled activity. Sarah, is that about right? I'm going off of what I remember Joe saying.
We're still working out the details, but it will be definitely a safe procedure for everyone.
Yeah, and I think it'll be appointment based, but yeah. So Sarah is on the phone. Welcome, Sarah, and thanks for joining us with Michael. Sarah and Michael are on the call with us from the Bachman Lake Library. Sarah's the library manager, and Michael is her public service specialist. Michael's also going to be assisting us with the Spanish session later on tonight. Sarah has been an amazing partner within the community. She attends a lot of our community meetings and we've created a really good partnership between the organizations with Bachman Lake Together, the library, Friends of Bachman Lake, the Bachman Northwest Highway Association. So I think that's what community is all about. And I think the library has very much been at the center of what we do. The second library that I was talking about within our area is Grolier, and the manager for that library is Ray Sablack, and they are right next to Grolier Park, right off of Harry Hines, so very close once again to the park. If you can move ahead a couple slides, Michael. Okay, there we go. So this is a picture of the Bachman Lake Library and information on where you can, what we're doing in terms of COVID notifications. If you can move ahead another slide. And this I thought was really important to go over because with COVID, I think there's a lot of questions of how do I go about getting a library card? Just email library customer service at dallaslibrary.org and request a card. Attach a photo or scan a photo ID and your proof of residence of the city of Dallas, and a staff member will get a hold of you, email you a card number and password. This is it's worked. It's not the maybe as convenient of just walking up to your local library to get your card, but it's really important, especially if you go to the next slide, Michael, to get services like the Ask the Librarian, or if you need a hotspot or you need to check out material, you have to have the library card first and foremost to make that all happen. Sarah, anything specific that you want to talk about on Ask a Librarian and what the type of services are that they have there?
Yeah, so in the past year we started chat reference, and there's different ways that you can access this. If you go to dallaslibrary.org, in the bottom right corner, you can just click on that graphic, Let's Chat, with the green circle, and you can chat with the librarian and ask them questions. You can also make an appointment, you can email, you can call. While the building's closed, we're still available to help.
I think that's fantastic, and I think, and it really is easy. I actually used that service. I forget what I was looking up, and I think it was a very old app that I was recalling using regarding for language. For learning other languages, and I didn't know what the app was that the library had now, and the gentleman was so responsive and answered my question very quickly. So I can definitely vouch for Ask a Librarian. It works, and if you have any questions, ask your librarian. So next slide, Michael. This is actually our last slide. And then we're going to move on to the DISD update. This is basically the library hours for Bachman Lake and for Grolier, and the phone numbers and email addresses for both locations. We are so lucky to have two of the newer libraries in Dallas, and just some fantastic librarians that are partners, that care about our community, and that are there for us. So Sarah, thank you so much to you and Michael for being here tonight. Before I forgot to say this at the beginning, but if you're listening to us on Facebook and you have any questions, please use the comment section on the Facebook page, and send us your questions. And then at the end of the session, we'll go back and answer those. So Joe, we turn it over to you for an update on what is going on in DISD.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you, Susanna. I'm happy to you're back in the good US of A. It's good to see you again. I know Michael and Ruth and myself missed you last month during the production of our monthly meeting. Then, of course, obviously, thank you, Michael, for everything you do to make this meeting go on a month-to-month basis as we continue to have these community meetings during a pandemic, and Ruth for everything you do to also make it happen as you keep your eye on Facebook for questions and you get us going here in the community. And of course, Sarah and Mr. Miranda, thank you always for your continued support. I want to start. I want to continue with the theme of thanking people before I jump into the main thing I want to talk about tonight, and that's the Intersession calendar within Dallas ISD. But I do want to take a good moment to acknowledge all the folks that stepped up this month to help our families in the Bachman Lake community. This was about 3 weeks ago or so. We were hit with the winter weather, and it was tough for a lot of families, for hundreds and hundreds of families in our community. I know my neighborhood off by Saldivar Elementary School, off Lombardi, we lost power for 4 days, Sunday through Thursday, and it was really cold, and it definitely was tough week there, and I know I wasn't alone. That was the situation hundreds of our neighbors were in. And then in the aftermath of that, we had many of our apartment complexes have some form of no water. I think at one point I counted as much as like 12 apartment complexes that had no water. I quickly moved to 9. And then it just varied from some major sections. Some apartments had major sections with no water. Others, just maybe a couple of units. But I'm happy to report today, touching base with our council people earlier today in our Bachman Lake community. multiple council districts, but in the parts of Blockman Lake that are Districts 2 and District 6, in and around the apartment complexes in Webb Chapel, I'm told that we now have running water in all of our apartment complexes. I want to say, if you're listening on Facebook and you know of a complex that still doesn't have running water, first things is call 311 and report that to code. Second thing is do not hesitate to reach out to anyone on this board, and we'll get you the help that you need, whether it's Susanna, Michael, Ruth here on the board, or myself. I, I give my our contact information is on the Facebook page that you're watching this on, and then my cell phone number is 469 544 6764. It's 469 544 6764. But I know for a fact, I'm talking to our code in the area, that they're driving apartment complex to apartment complex and trying to get a good feel for where there's need. And where there is need, we can definitely get water delivered to you. We have that in bulk. And so that's what I wanted to say is thank you to everyone who stepped up that week to get our families water and food. So many great community partners. Buckner International opened up their Hope Center off of Lombardi to keep people warm. Bachman Lake Together, Rosa and company and Dr. Olga Hickman who just we were just sharing information to make sure we had a grasp of where families needed water and where water needed to be delivered. I think of our council members, their offices, Councilman Medrano and Narvaez, who communicated and helped provide like a warming bus at Medrano Elementary School. Our teachers and the DISD that raised $10,000 at Medrano Elementary School to provide extra water and food for our kids. Amy Spower and her leadership, Pastor Spower at Christ Foundry, who helped distribute water. I mean, everyone. I mean, I could go on and on. I'm definitely missing somebody for sure. Our team at DISD who got our buildings up and running within over the weekend and a couple days. We worked through the weekend to get us up and running by Wednesday. We have 230 plus school facilities in the district, and I think over 130 had some form of damage. Could have the numbers a little off, but it was good percentage of our buildings suffered damage, and it took a lot of people to get them up and running. We had schools that had, I mean, water was coming out of the front door. And second floors were collapsing in. So it was big work. And if you walk into them now, you wouldn't realize that that's what had happened. So, so I don't, a lot of folks, Cathedral of Hope, I just popped into my head at David G. Burnett, who also helped provide food. I'm gonna miss a lot of people, but to everyone that stepped up, it was a full community effort, and I'm extremely grateful. And the need was so big. It was unlike really something I'd ever really seen before. It was very sad. So that's that. That's that. I want to talk tonight about Intersession. It's something that we've been thinking about at DISD since around November. We know that because of the pandemic, there are many of our students have lost learning. We know that many of our students have fallen behind. They're not where we want them to be, or where we were hoping to have them at this point in the school year. And as you can imagine, it's been difficult. First, not being for many of our students that haven't returned to the classroom. Other students were not in the classroom for a very prolonged period of time, and so it's been a traumatic moment for our kids. And we've lost learning, and so in a result of that, DISD is looking for a solution, and not just one solution, multiple different solutions on how we catch our kids back up, how we get them reading on grade level again, uh, and uh, and where they and catch them up to where they need to be academically. One of those solutions has been something called the Intersession calendar. Um, and simple explanation of it is um, it's it's 5 additional weeks of school instruction starting next school year. Not for everyone, but for select schools, and I'm going to explain that here in a second. But first I want to explain for folks that may not know, the traditional academic calendar in Dallas ISD, the base traditional calendar, runs from August through May. This year it's a little bit different because we started late, so we're actually going to June 18th. But the traditional calendar runs August through May. What the Intersession calendar is proposing is August through June. So it's an extra month. But it's an extra month with 5 intersession weeks cut into the calendar. So think of like instead of one spring break, 4 other spring breaks. But it's not a break for every kid. There are some kids that we're going to ask to show up to those intersession weeks to make sure that they are staying staying on par with their classmates. That's important only because we're beginning to decide where those campuses will be, and that's what I want to share tonight. In order to determine which campuses we're going to get those 5 extra weeks of instruction, DISD went about starting in November with a series of town halls, surveys to parents, to teachers. And I think, Michael, this is where we might try to do a little bit of internet magic and see if we can make share screen work. You think we can should I just click share screen and see if that works? Yeah, okay, let me see if I can do this.
Yeah, I was on mute. Talk about techno magic.
Is that working
Absolutely.
for folks?
Yep.
Is that working? Okay, perfect. So,
and you can enlarge the screen if you wanted to maximize the view.
Right.
But it looks good.
Yeah, okay. So we're beginning to decide which campuses will have an intersession calendar. So the question was how we went about doing that. So there was a survey done given to the families. There was a survey given to teachers, and ultimately these were the metrics by and large that were used to determine which campuses could expect the intersession calendar. I want to repeat, this decision is made on a campus by campus basis. So this is a decision that comes down to the principal ultimately. And you kind of get a feel for this information here, which, by the way, this information is on dallasisd.org time to learn. That's dallasisd.org time to learn. You'll find this Google page here, and I'll also paste it on my Facebook page, my DISD District 8 Facebook page. But you'll see here what the data provides us. Now I want to bring you to one of our schools. I want to get ahead of myself here, but let you know there are only 2 schools. There are only 2 schools in the Bachman Lake area that are right now moving forward with an intersession calendar. Okay. Now, and we have 5 schools as I define the Bachman Lake area. We have 5 elementary schools and a middle school. We have Burnett Elementary School. We have Foster Elementary School. We have Joe May Elementary School. We have Cigarroa Elementary School. We have Saldiva Elementary School. And then we have Medrano Junior High School. And then those are the DISD District schools directly north of Bachman Lake. Of those schools, the two schools moving forward with Intersession are Stephen C. Foster and Medrano Junior High. Stephen C. Foster and Medrano Junior High. That is not a final and confirmed list, but it is as final and confirmed as I think we can possibly get. I'll take you to them here now. There is Stephen C. Foster here. You guys see this line? You see, so this is how they came about the decision. 100% of their teachers responded. If more than 25 teachers were thinking about transferring because they didn't want to move forward with the Intersession calendar, and that was going to flag this school as red and probably would have been removed from consideration. That's not what happened here. Only 4% thought that. And same thing here. No major flags when parents were asked whether this is something that they wanted to see at their school. As you can see, there are definitely schools that did have flags, right? There are campuses that did. That's not the case at Foster or at, here's Pancho Medrano Middle School. So you can guys, I'll post this. You guys can look at this data and dive in. But the message tonight, the headline tonight, is that those two campuses can expect an Intersession calendar next year. So what does that mean for families in Bachman Lake? It means if you don't have your child enrolled in one of those campuses and you think your child can benefit from 5 additional weeks of instruction, then DISD is an open enrollment campus. You can seek to enroll in one of these schools, in Foster Elementary School, if you have an elementary school age child. If you have a 7th and 8th grader, which is what Medrano Middle School is, and you want to, and you're in the Bachman Lake area and you want Intersession, you can go to one of those schools. If you don't, then you can also transfer out of that school to a Rusk Middle School or Marsh Middle School or some other choice program within Dallas ISD. So I wanted to share that information with you all. I think that's a really big change that'll come about for many families. Let me stop sharing this for a second. How do I do that? I think.
Hey, Joe, while you're looking at that in the same, because I jumped over to the website that you mentioned, there's something called the School Day Redesign. Can you explain what that is?
Right. So the School Day Redesign is another calendar that DISD is looking at adopting. That is not applying to any of the schools in the Bachman Lake community. It's also an extended school year, but it is not as flexible as the Intersession calendar because in the Intersession calendar, those additional weeks are optional for families. In the Redesign calendar, it's an additional 5 weeks of school, but there are no Intersession weeks. It's really just the full school year. You show up every day. But the thing with the Redesign calendar is because there's so few of them, each campus could design it unique to them. Meaning, let me give you an example. If every campus wanted to just say, we have no school Wednesday afternoon, that's just what we do at X school, then they could do that and allow for more teacher planning time, allow for or more kind of a extracurricular kind of enrichment for students during that Wednesday afternoon. They could just really rethink any idea that you have. They can truly rethink the school calendar entirely with that extra time. That's not an option that any of our schools here in Northwest or in Bachman Lake ever considering, um, and then each were potentially considering Intercession, but the only one that really got uh, strong teacher and community support was Foster and Madrona Middle.
So, what other ideas, other than modifying the calendar and putting more school days on the calendar, is DISD considering in order to address this learning gap that has been identified?
Yeah, so we've tasked administration and they're on it, um, to bring us more ideas. One thing that's already been announced publicly is um, is these summer camps where we'll really do strong emphasis on social emotional learning, really helping kids kind of work through the trauma that's been the last year so that they go excited into the next school year, so that we're not just all bummed out about school because it's been so hectic for the last year. Um, so so there's things like that. We already do a form of after school tutoring and Saturday schools and things like that, but there could be kind of just different approaches to those types of interventions. So it's still something that's being worked through. This was the first big response uh, to that. And I also want to say, just for for the benefit of everyone, people often look at this and go, "This is well, didn't this is year round? This is year round school. This is not a new concept." It's not year-round school for two reasons, and how I want to explain how it's different. The first reason is that um, one, here July is sacred. There's no school in July. That's the easy one. The second one is because um, this is not just year-round school or summer school or school in the summer. Because here, uh, in traditional kind of summer school, students that need it show up for that extra month. Here we have the intervention happening throughout the school year, right? The idea being that we keep students along with their class throughout the school year, and we don't just try to catch them up at the end after a full year of instruction. And so um, that's the benefit and what the difference of the intercession calendar. And so again, if families that can hear me want that, and we have space at Foster, we have space at all our elementary schools and Bachman Lake. And if that's something for you, that's definitely an option for you. If you're a family at Foster and you don't want that, we have space at Saldivar or Burnett. I know it's disruptive to move a school community, but if that's something that you really do not want to do, then that option is available to you.
Thank you, Joe. I had a question, Sarah, that maybe broaches both, both DISD and the library. I think I recall that there used to be a program that you could volunteer through the library for to become a homework tutor. Does that ring a bell, or am I making that up? I think you're on mute.
So at this time, the library doesn't have volunteers.
So
But
it was
one
it
of
was
the
an online, yeah, it was an online program. It wasn't, it was all people from wherever, right? And you got matched up to do the tutoring.
yeah, one of our online resources that you can access with your library card through the library's website is homework help. And yeah, any subject, all from kindergarten through college, you can get homework help, and some of it's live tutoring. Yeah.
So I thought it would be good for you to note that, Joe, because it's not you're not tied to the hours that are offered necessarily by DISD in terms of the tutoring or the Saturday programs.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, just a service that the library offers, and it's. I actually was intimidated because I tried to become a tutor, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know that I can remember my high school algebra, so forget that.
Nope. Only Ruth knows it right now. She's the only one that can school us in it.
Yeah. So, but anyways, it's also another program for you guys to be aware of. Ruth, do we have
Well,
any questions online for Joe
I'm
or
looking,
others?
yeah, so there's not any questions. There's a couple comments saying this sounds like a great thing. Wish we had kids again, school-age children. But no questions per se.
I planted that person there. They're like, that's what I did. Let me text that person. Great job. Great job. You
Work
mission accomplished.
done.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So for the schools that are still like leading intermission, is there a timeline for them to go one way or the other, or any
Yeah.
word of that?
Yeah. So so yes, it's it's actually was Friday technically. There was an extension on the data, the parent data and the survey data was due on the 22nd. But because of the snowstorm, that was pushed back to Friday, though uh, so I think the information's kind of already baked in. But I will say, if you haven't done the survey and you're a parent in Dallas ISD, the link is still live. Please go do it. Every additional voice helps because the list isn't final, but I felt comfortable tonight bringing you the information about Foster and Medrano because it is as final as I think final can get. Um, because decisions have to be made soon to give families opportunities to then look at transferring if that's not the option for them, and those conversations begin to kick off here in April. So.
Will there be any transportation offered to people who choose to transfer in and out, or is that up to the parents?
No, it's still up to the parent, and that's something that is an issue we're working on. Administration's very much aware of, but it's not promised yet.
Okay.
So Ruth, I saw your unrelated question regarding Crash Mountain at Dry Gulch. Is that the one over by the Northwest Transfer Station?
I'm not 100% sure.
So I know that I had sent a note to Councilman Narvaez regarding some concerns from the community that there was a huge pileup of trash. Now that I'm back and trying to go figure out where it is, to make sure that it's, I think the answer from sanitation has been that they were behind on the collection of that material and they planned on removing it. So, but we'll take that question. When we get an answer, we'll post it out there on our social media channels for the community.
Yes, I believe that you have the correct location.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you, Trustee Carreón, as well, for your update.
Great updates, everyone. We have, whoops, if we can unmute. We have a couple of minutes left. Michael did a great job of setting the stage of what is going to be happening next month. We're going to have a little bit more of a civics conversation on the importance of precinct chairs and, how do we get involved in making a difference in our community and making sure that our vote counts. It's going to continue to be a progression. At the end of last year, all voter registrar certificates expired because that's the rule in Texas. So voter registrars are having to re-register, and also the voter rolls themselves get purged if you have not voted in the previous election. So even though one might think that one is registered to vote, there are little things that can cause us to trip up over time. So we want to make sure that civic education is happening. We're going to invite some folks from a neutral party to give us the necessary education. And we're also going to spend the time at this next session having a little bit more of a conversation about the completion of the survey that took place for the Bachman Lake area, and talk also about the aquatic center and what options exist there. We want to make sure that we're getting full community input regarding the aquatic center, which is currently scheduled to be a regional aquatic center, which will cost money to access versus possibly getting something a little bit more quickly into the area that would provide for free access for the community. So I think that those are things that we need to balance and we need to have a conversation about, and we'll do that a little bit more next month. So until then, thank you very much. Be on the lookout for the newsletter if you haven't registered for that. It will be coming out later this week. So thank you, everybody.